Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're going to be making protein ice cream. First and foremost, I'm going to show you guys the core ingredients. You're going to be able to flavor this however you'd like. We're going to explain how to do that in a second here. Before we get into any of the actual ingredients, let's get into the blender because this part is actually pretty important. I make my protein ice cream using a Ninja blender. You can get these at Costco, usually between 60 and 80 bucks. They do sometimes go on sale. Keep an eye out for that if they do. The core reason why I use the Ninja and not just a regular blender, it all comes down to the blade. Notice how this is multi-tiered. A lot of cheap blenders have the blade at the bottom. You're going to be really hurting if you try to do this recipe with a regular blender. You're going to find that these top blades really go a long way at cutting up the ice and making this more consistent. While it's not impossible to do this with a cheap blender, it's going to take a lot longer to get this prepared. This already takes about 5 to 10 minutes of blending depending on how thick you want your ice cream. So we get the Ninja blender, easy peasy, stick the blade in, and this thing's ready to go. Voila, easy peasy. Now let's talk about the key ingredients. There's going to be 3 things that really tie this all together. It should go without saying, protein ice cream, you're going to need protein. I want you guys to be thoughtful about your choice of protein. Think about what flavor you want this ice cream to be. If you can find that protein flavor online, it's going to go a long way at getting this ice cream to taste the way you want it. If you want the cleanest protein possible, this is the brand that I prefer. It's Now's brand of protein isolate. This is unflavored. It has no extra ingredients in it whatsoever. It's just protein isolate. If you do use it this way, just know that you're going into this on hard mode. You're completely on your own for flavor, but this is going to come out on top absolutely when it comes to nutrition. For today's demo, I'm actually using Kirkland's chocolate protein. The label on here is not as perfect as the other option I just showed you, but this is flavored like chocolate. It's going to help a long way for me making chocolate ice cream. Here's the really good news. If you do this on a basic formula, you can actually get this ice cream to only be about 300 calories, and that's going to take up this entire blender. You'll see once we start making it, I'm able to get the ice cream level all the way up to here. This is no joke. 2 scoops of any type of protein is going to get you there. That's going to be roughly 50 grams of protein, depending on the scoop you use. Of course, you can always just measure up to 50 grams if you need to. Next, we need to have xanthan gum. When it comes to xanthan gum, less is going to be more. You never need as much of this as you think you do, and I'm going to caution you guys right now. If you put a lot of xanthan gum into anything you cook, you're going to have extremely bad gas. I'm going to be using less than 1/4 of a teaspoon of this. I'm literally just using a dash. A little bit does go a long way. I don't like getting gassy. I bet you don't either, so don't overdo this. But it is mandatory. This should go without saying. You're gonna need ice cubes. If you have a refrigerator freezer that creates its own ice cubes, you're in luck. This should be very easy for you. For me, I don't have that luxury. I've got to use trays of ice cubes. This 16 tray right here will fill up the blender all the way to the top. You don't need any more than 16 ice cubes. You can use fewer. If you find that your ice cream is too watery in consistency, feel free to use less ice cubes and maybe compensate that with some extra fruit. Speaking of the fruit, for this demo, I'm using fresh red strawberries. Here in Michigan, at the time of me filming this, the strawberries couldn't be fresher. This is really great timing. But depending on the time of year, you may not be able to get as fresh as strawberries. If that's the case, you're more than welcome to use frozen. And in fact, the frozen strawberries are gonna go a long way at actually replicating ice cubes. So if you do run out of ice or you just want it to be thicker, a little bit extra fruit goes a long way. For this recipe, I'm measuring out 10 strawberries. That's going to come out to be roughly 50 calories. So our base ingredients so far, it's going to be 2 scoops of protein. That's going to get us to around 200 to 250 calories. Then you got 50 calories from the fruit. That totals up to 300 at the base formula. Of course, you can always add extra flavoring if you need to. Now, if strawberries is not your jam, don't worry. Anything you want to flavor it with, you can. Blueberries are a great option. If that's not doing it for you, you got dark cherries. If that's not doing it for you, you've got mango. Go ahead and find out what you want to use. There's so many options. You don't have to be limited to one type of fruit. Try to make it measure out to around 50 calories if you can. Don't worry too much if you go over. If you want to have a thicker ice cream, more fruit will thicken this up. Now, to give this a little bit more consistency, I'm going to be throwing in a splash of coconut milk. The calories on here are negligible. It's only 45 calories per cup. We're not going anywhere close to that. When I say a splash, I mean I'm putting maybe roughly 1/4 of a cup in there or less. I'm really not going that crazy with this. This just really helps blend up the ice in the beginning when it's just rocks of ice in that blender. You're going to see what I mean in a second. If you do want to add fat calories to this, You could also just go with a coconut water with the pulp in it. If you want to go even beyond that, there's other fat additives that you could use to give this thing even more texture, and it's going to give it a little bit more flavor as well. If you really wanted to, you could melt a tablespoon of butter, throw that in the blender as well. Of course, this is going to increase the calories, but mind you, we started out with a base of 300 calories. So there's plenty of wiggle room here. If you do want to make it more flavorful, you can add some calories. It's not a huge deal. Now, with all that said, let's go ahead and start putting these ingredients into the blender. I'm going to start out first by putting in the ice cubes. As you can see, got our tray of ice cubes. They're going in now. So far, so good. Now it's time for the protein. Guys, remember what I said. A little bit of xanthan gum, very small amount. Less is more, trust me. Let's get a little bit of that coconut milk going. We're adding just a splash, no need to measure this one out. Don't need to overcomplicate things. That should do it. Let's go with a little bit more. After I throw in the strawberries, I'll show you guys a few options just to give you an idea of ways that you can mix things up. Now, mind you, the flavor you want is kind of up to you. The opportunities here are endless. Alright guys, for my ice cream, I'm almost done, but I'm going to show you guys a few things you could do to even amplify the flavor if you need to. So remember I was saying I'm making chocolate ice cream. If I added a tablespoon of this to there, it's going to give it a lot more chocolatey flavor. A tablespoon of cocoa is negligible for calories. 1 tablespoon is only 10. You could even put 2 in if you want, not a big deal. Next on the list, personally I really don't like artificial sweeteners, but erythritol of all the options out there is probably the safest. So again, add as much as you think that you need. For my own batch, I'm not going to be adding anything extra. This is all optional stuff for you if you want to make it more flavorful. For me personally, what we have here is enough. Now the fun part begins. Here's the thing, this is actually going to take quite a while, even if you have the Ninja. What you want to do is just pulse the ice cubes a little bit, or else it's going to be really noisy. If you got dogs in the house, they're probably not going to like it. Now as you can see, it is busting up in there. I'm gonna let this run for about 5 to 10 minutes. You're gonna see by the time we're done, it's gonna be up to here. Let's get this thing going. There we have it, guys. As you can see, this thing is totally full. Now there's a little bit of clumps down there. You can use a spoon to dig that out, put it back in for like another 30 seconds, get that blended in the mix. But otherwise, I would say this right here is done. Only 300 calories. This blender right here, you can spend the better part of your entire night having this a little bit at a time. Is going to make it so you can be low calorie through the evening. I know a lot of you guys late at night get those late night munchies. Something like this is going to go a long way at helping curb that. If you're only having 300 calories before bed, that's going to really help either with weight loss or maintaining your current physique once you're happy with where you're at. Now, just fair warning, having the entire blender at one time, it's going to expand your stomach. You got to be ready for that. Don't try to chomp it all down in one bite. You can always put this back in the freezer or the refrigerator. Come back for more later. Look at that. It really does fill the whole blender, you guys. Personally, I like the flavor. If you're not used to eating healthy like this, you might find that it's not sweet enough for you. Over time, you do get used to the subtle sweetness. I don't personally need to add anything to this, but if you did, there's options out there for you. One way or another, this is a super low calorie snack you can have on a daily basis. It'll help you hit that sweet tooth late at night when you're craving it without all the unnecessary calories. Well, I've got my work cut out ahead of me. We're eating every last bite of this tonight, so I better get started soon. If you guys like this recipe, make sure to save this video. You might not remember who I am 5 weeks from now. Having this saved doesn't matter to me how you do it. Either bookmark it in Chrome, save it on YouTube itself, what have you. But if you want to come back to this recipe, saving the video is the best way to do that. One more thing before you go, if I could ask you to like the video, also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Over the coming weeks, I'm going to show you guys a lot more recipes that all fit into the volume diet. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell so that you can see each of them as they come out. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.